about to head to one of my ex-teammates, Jo Adell. He's gonna give us a little insight into his mindset, his process. It's pretty dope. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna do some contrast. This is gonna be his like recovery day. Some contrast, and then we're gonna chop it up on his roof, I believe is what it is. I played with him in 2021 when I was with the Angels, and we were both together in AAA with the Salt Lake Bees. Dude was one of the most athletic people that I've ever been around, like speed, jumping, power. So I'm interested to see like what things he does to like help optimize that performance, man. So
yeah, good to see you. Good to see you. This is my girlfriend, Jasmine.
Woo! It's hot.
Yeah, I know.
Do you do this? Do you do this during the season too?
I try to during the year. You know how things go, man. The season, it gets long, and you try to do the closest to your routine you had in spring training in the season, but it gets tough. But I try to. I try to get in and at least contrast at the field a little bit when I can.
Well, shit, I know that like sometimes there are a bunch of people like doing the same thing, you know, so like kind of have to pick your poison. But like the cool thing about it is like whenever I was coming up, rookies couldn't be in this at the same time as like the veteran guys.
Like the hot tubs too?
Hot tub, training room, bro. I remember walking in, I had a sore arm. It was like it was in 2013, so my first full season. I walk in, I'm like, hey Sean, man, can you like give me like a what did he call it, a flush? Yeah, I got you. So he started giving me a flush, and then I forgot who it was. I didn't even say his name. Walked in. What the hell you doing in here, rookie? You don't have enough time. You got a cup of coffee, that's it. I'm like, damn, that was the last time I was in the training room. But now, people are understanding that, like, bro, like, you, the rookie matters, right? And you want to make sure that everyone has a routine. So, like, now it's a little bit different. So, like, it's a different experience like that now, right?
It's crazy now, man. It is. It's, I think what you're starting to see is I think players are in the big leagues younger. It feels like now you're dealing with, you know, a lot of depth stuff going on, and there's been some really impactful rookies, you know. And so when you have a guy that's essentially like the face of a team, you can't deny them their treatment. You know, they kind of like, if they perform at a high level, they honestly kind of deserve the right to get ready for the game. But I think in the same aspect, in my experience, if I was first on the training table, there were some issues, you know what I mean? But I think everywhere is different, and I think the culture, depending on the team, is kind of just, we'll change that. Okay.
Now, specifically for this, we're doing contrast, right? So like, normally, how long do you stay in the hot, and how long do you stay in the cold? And what is your preference? Like, do you end on cold or end on hot? Like, there's different methods.
You know, honestly, it kind of depends. Like in the middle of the day, like today, I kind of like ending on cold a little bit. This is Arizona, so you know, you deal with 95 to 100 degrees every day. I can end on the cold, but you know, as far as training and working out, if I come in here in the morning time and I'm using the cold plunge as a way to wake up, I might end in the hot just to keep my muscles ready to go for work and whatnot. But the cold's a beast, man. The cold's a beast. 5 minutes in the hot and 2 minutes in the cold is what I try to do. Because anything outside of 2 to 3 minutes in that cold is gonna be a problem.
Bro, like, you won't be able to move after some of that. Like, I felt it, and I was just thinking, like, how the hell do they keep that shit so cold, especially in Arizona? It gets like 115 here. So like, I don't know how they got to using some. I'm
gonna tell you what. I'm glad that I don't have to worry about whatever bill that is, because that right there is different. 41 degrees, 24 hours a day. I mean, that's insane.
Man, what's it been like living here in Arizona in the off season? Like, this is my. So I was always on the East Coast, because
Florida.
So I stayed out there, and whenever I did in the off season, I'd move to LA. Just for the off season. But like, what has it been like here for you just to be in this area? It seems really sick.
It's been fantastic, and you know, for us, the Angels, our spring training's in Tempe, and you know, I'm 30 minutes away from the complex if I ever needed anything. But really, more than anything, the weather. I think as a baseball player, and me being originally from Louisville, Kentucky, I dealt with snow, winter, 30-degree weather throughout the off season, and it hindered kind of my off season program. You know, there were days where I wanted to go out and long toss and play catch, or, you know, do some outfield drills, and couldn't do it at home.
Yeah.
And so, you know, being out here now, it honestly gives me an extra 2 months to get ready to go for the season, I feel like. So, man, obviously I love Louisville. I'm, you know, 502 from day one, but obviously the move was more for my interest in baseball, and man, I love it. And the amount of players out here too. I mean, this place has just turned into, you know, the mecca for getting ready for the year. If I need somebody to hit with, I go up the road, and ASU's there. There's plenty of pro guys, so really enjoyed it. Yeah. How's that right there?
One of the reasons I've explained this to Gyro that I like doing this is for the mental part of it, right?
Oh yeah.
Do you enjoy that part as well?
Oh my God, yeah. You got to get through, in this particular plunge, you got to get through the first minute and a half, because your body just is quitting.
Yeah.
it's scared. It's trying to figure out what's going on, but once you get through that minute, you're good to go.
Yeah, bro. Like for me, like it's like a controlled stress, because if it gets too cold, you can always get out. But I feel like for me, like especially for times and during the season where things, you know, are stressful, like it helped me deal with those things more effectively, because I've practiced the stress, kind of, you know what I mean? Have you found the same thing with you?
I think like my whole thing with working out, and my teammates will say that, you know, I'm a gym freak, but the thing with working out or anything with your body that you do with your body that you challenge, I think it sets you up for what you're gonna do next.
Right.
Not even just baseball, you know, it could be whatever in life. And you know, I come out here and I use this as a therapeutic way to kind of get my mind in a spot where, you know, I'm loose, I'm ready to attack, and I'm ready to kind of face whatever's thrown my way. So I think more than even just the game itself, I think this type of stuff and the way that you take care of your body can kind of set you up for that next level.
Yeah. Is that about 2 minutes?
Right now. Hey, I'll tell you, the clock goes really slow when you're in here.
It sure does, man. I'm sitting here like I'm taking it out. I'm like, I think that's like 2 minutes, but actually it's like about to be a minute right now. But yeah, I want to talk about the next part. Is like you were drafted 10th overall. So that's crazy. Like the amount of pressure that probably came with. Like, did you ever feel that, or was that something that never even crossed your mind?
Well, what's crazy about it is, you know, especially me being a high school draft, I think high school and college draftees is two totally different things.
Right.
For me, you know, small town in Kentucky, you know, I led the nation in home runs the year I got drafted. All I knew was that I was going to play well. You know, so I kind of had this idea in my head that every time that I stepped on the field, you know, I was going to dominate. You know, it didn't matter, you know, who I was facing. I mean, there were times my senior year where I literally thought I couldn't get out. And so, you know, and then you get drafted, and I don't want to say obviously 10th overall, and I sit back and look at it, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. You know what I mean? But at the time, it was like, I expected it. You know what I mean? I expected that. And then, you know, you get in that first year of pro ball, and I know you know this, but it's a wake-up call. I mean, I can't, like my first day, I remember my first practice, we didn't even play a game. I'm sitting there in the locker room at the end of the game. I'd never played with players who didn't know English, so it was the first time that I'd ever played, you know, with players who couldn't respond or communicate with me. I called my dad. I was like, man, like I don't know if I can do this. You know, I just gotten diced up. You know, this is the first time that I've seen 95 for 2 or 3 consecutive days. You know, it was like, man, like is this something that I can do? And you know, as I stuck with it and took my lumps, you know, had a little bit of success, you know, got to nibble at a little bit of success, a hit here, my first homer here. And then you end up being hungry for that. And so it's kind of crazy how that my world kind of switched from originally thinking that, you know, I can't be beat. I'm thrilled about where I am now, but I look back on it and I laugh because I'm like, man, just the switch and the type of player that I thought I was and who I actually was and who I had to become. It's crazy. The craziest part about me is I never played a game. When we played Japan, they were cheering for us and Japan. It was interesting, but like the most respectful crowd ever. I'm like, I'm used to getting booed. Like I'm used to people throwing things. And this is the first time that I played a game where this is their home country and their team's playing and they cheered for me. Like a base hit and the place is going crazy.
It's like playing in St. Louis. Well, I mean, it's a different atmosphere because feel like in Japan and overseas that there's a little more vibe and like there's more sound. Like everyone's more involved in it.
They love
but
it.
Like they just love good baseball. So like if you lay down a good bunt or like you hit a home run or make a good play, no matter what team you're on, they're like, yeah.
It's
like,
totally different.
They just love baseball.
They love it. And they show up and they know the game and they show up to watch the game because they respect it. It's not just show up for something to do. They show up because they're a part of it.
You mentioned something earlier. Like you said you called your dad. What was that conversation like? Because what I like to show, especially for people out there that maybe aren't athletes, like this is where it translates, is that like you can feel like confident, but that confidence isn't always there like 100% of the time. There's some times where you take a hit. So like, what was that conversation like whenever you felt like, after feeling like you were untouchable, you can't be beat, to then having the realization like, oh shit, there's a lot of great players out there. What was that conversation like to your dad, and what switched to like get you back to that belief in yourself?
Well, I think the crazy part about our conversation was, you know, how simple his response was to me of, hey, you're in this situation because people have watched you play, we've watched you grow. They know that you're going to be able to handle this. You know what I mean? This isn't like, you know, when you get drafted, especially where I was, it's like, it wasn't a mistake.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the big thing was, hey, this wasn't a mistake. You're here for a reason. Like, this is something new. This is the next level. You know, for me, I've always attacked whatever the circumstance was to be. You know, when I was younger, a lot of people don't know this, but I was a pitcher before I was a hitter.
I didn't know that either.
So yeah, so I was a pitcher all the way up until my junior year. I was being scouted as a pitcher, you know, which is kind of crazy. And I got to my sophomore year and I was like, man, I really love hitting. Like, I love to hit. I wish I could just dive in and do this and have this just be my thing. You know, pitching, I love the competitiveness of it.
Right.
But you know this, making pitches and going through lineups, like that wasn't going to be my thing.
You don't get to do damage. As a pitcher,
you
know, you can strike somebody
really
out, that's about it. But like the feeling of hitting a home run off of somebody, I can't. That's the best thing in baseball. I feel like, you know what I mean. Go ahead.
It's crazy, but so during that time, during that switch, I caught a lot of scrutiny, and I struggled. But it was the first time where I had to make a decision of, hey, how am I going to overcome this circumstance? There's people that think that I can't do this, but I know that I can.
Right.
And when I became a hitter and a national level, you know, guy, that was in a 2-year span. So I get into pro ball and I'm struggling. And on this conversation with my dad, he goes, remember that moment. Remember the moment when you decided you wanted to be something that others thought that you weren't, or that was not attainable. And then, you know, we hung up and I went to work, early hitting. Showed up to the field really, really early to try to figure out, hey, what can I do? Some film work, some film study. Trying to educate myself on what it's going to take to be a professional hitter.
Right.
Because it's a lot different. I mean, you have the tool packages, but you've got to go out and game plan.
Yep.
This is a different game. And so from that moment forward, I took every level that I moved up as that challenge. Okay, so this level, what do these guys do in high A? What do they do in double A? And always trying to attack it from a studious point of view. To allow myself to continue to move forward and you know, be in the situation now. Yeah,
I got that same like reality shock. I was a starter in college, but I was drafted senior sign, 21st round, like got $1,000 a sign, and I was like, all right, cool, I'm going to the bullpen, which I wanted to be a starter, but like whatever, I'm going to the bullpen means I'm gonna throw gas. I threw the hardest I've ever thrown like in that first game. I was throwing 95, 96, like. Up until that point, I was like 90, 91, and I was getting balls ripped off me off the wall. So there was a realization, like, it didn't matter. Like, you can throw 100 miles an hour. A pro hitter is going to time that up.
Time up a bullet, man.
Time up a bullet. So, like, I had that realization, like, all right, I got to be better. So, like, I studied. I hung around all the guys that I felt that were like top prospects. I like walked like them, talked like them. I saw guys that were in double A, all these like that are above levels than me, and I was like, all right, what do I got to do to get there? So I started to like get my routines down and all those things, because routine is a big part of like success, especially in the big leagues and even in pro ball, because like you're gonna play bad no matter what. So like if you can stick to your process and your routine, like those are the things that are going to help you either stay there or go to the next level, right? So I'm curious, When you were in that time where you were low on yourself, like what were the thoughts that you were thinking during that time? Was it like self-deprecating, or was it just like, or like what was that time like mentally? And then what were the thoughts after that? Because you now know that you're beatable, right? Once you got out of that.
It's inevitable.
So like it's a mind shift. It's like, all right, how did you understand that, like in your own mind?
I think honestly the first thing is recognizing that, you know, and this is something I couldn't do originally, but recognizing that that portion's gonna happen. Every year is gonna have that portion, and multiple portions maybe, where it's just not right. But the one thing that I had to remind myself was that your routine, and you just talked about routine, which is huge, your routine is your routine, right? Your routine is what allows you to go out and compete, and if it doesn't go well, it's not your routine's fault. It's just the inevitable of, hey, it's just the ebbs and flows of what baseball is.
Right.
But originally it was tough, and originally with me not having the experience of failure and understanding, you know, failure at this level, because failure in high school was, nobody tweeted about it or talked about it, didn't know what that was, you know. And then when I was able to find a way to channel that focus, I just dived back into that routine and just know that, hey, this is my routine, and that I'm gonna get out of whatever the situation is. But my family was huge. My family was huge, man. Going and talking to my mom and my dad, and being able to just, you know, crack a couple jokes on the phone when it didn't go well. I remember there are plenty of nights where, you know, I chased a slider away, and I call my dad even to this day, and I'm like, you see me chase that slider 3 feet outside? And he's like, yeah, I saw it, you know what I mean? And we laugh and joke, and not to, you know, make fun of it, but to keep it lighthearted and understand that it's gonna happen. You know, you're gonna get beat.
You're playing against the best in the world.
The best in the world, you know, but that's really like kind of my routine. My routine is, if it doesn't go well, even me and my girlfriend Jasmine right now will joke about it. My girlfriend at one point, I remember I had an 0 for 4 night with 3 Ks. I came back home and we're sitting at the kitchen.
She said, you ain't eating tonight.
Might as well, right? We're sitting at the kitchen table, and she's just kind of freshly getting into baseball over the past couple of years that we've been together. And she looks at me and she goes, man, I'll tell you what, those 3 at-bats you had, it was like 1, 2, 3, and you were back in the dugout. I was like, yeah, babe, we're not trying to do that, I promise you. This is just the way that it happened tonight. But we got to laugh about it. And as long as you can keep it lighthearted and close the page, you got to close the page every day. You got to close it when it's good. Right. You know, it's like the 3 for 4 night with 2 homers. You got to like pretend it didn't happen. You got to wake up the next morning and pretend you're scrabbling around for a hit. You just have to. Right. And that's what the best do. The best pretend that every day, and even after the day, they haven't done anything.
Well, and that's a big part of, like, the people that I've been around that have been the most successful, even it's really pitch for pitch, it's moment to moment, it's being conscious. So like I can see someone, you know, swinging at a ball and missing it, like you mentioned, like it was way outside, and then being like, all right, that's gone. The next important moment is the one that's about to come, and that's how you stay focused, because if your mind trails to what just happened, whether it be good or bad, then it's less focused. That's focused on at that moment, and that's the most important. That's the most important. Like the most important in your life right now is right now.
Right now.
And like if you take that mentality in throughout your whole life, then like I feel like you can have a successful life. Now, speaking of routine, I think it's time to go back into the cold tub. So you ready to do that?
Let's rock.
Let's do it.
You going the long way or you going the shortcut?
We'll go the shortcut. After you.
Come on now.
Ooh. So after that phone call and after that mindset shift, I feel like you figured it out. When I was looking at your minor league numbers, like you were 340, 350, like really knocking the cover off the ball. And then you get your first call up, and after that, it felt like that process had to shift again.
Oh man.
What was that process like?
Oh man. So yeah, man, I banged all the way through the minor leagues, AAA, banged, got to the big leagues. I debuted during COVID, so 2020 was my first like year in the big leagues. And man, like that process didn't work. Like, and I mean the process, not necessarily like me getting ready for the game, not anything hitting related or anything. It was the way I was preparing to play the teams and face the pitchers. You know, my plan against the starter wasn't as good, and I struggled, and it showed. And I was like, man, like it had nothing to do with my ability to perform, you know, that year. It was the way that I attacked the starters, the way that I attacked the bullpen. Hadn't seen these guys before. You know, and the other thing too that was really difficult was I had never faced an actual big league sinker.
Yeah.
Like a sinker. Like that was a pitch, like we didn't see that in the minor leagues. I never saw one until I got to the big leagues. I mean, we saw like some two-seam fastballs that had maybe a little bit of arm side run.
Right.
I didn't face like a Zach Wheeler like sinker. You know, it was like my first year seeing some of these
What about
pitches.
cutters? Like
Slide. I mean, in the minor leagues, it was like little sliders. You know what I mean? And I was parking them shits. You know what I mean? And then it's like
sliders go far, man. If you don't spot them, they
you,
go far.
And then you get up there and you see like the Corbin Burns like cutter slider action, and you're like, dude, this is not the same. And so, again, back to the drawing board. This was another level. You know, the minor leagues, you know, as great as it is, and for the development process, there's big league stuff. When big league stuff is out there, it's not the same.
Right.
And so yeah, I had to go back to that drawing board. And the other thing too about COVID was, man, it was just a tough year to debut. I mean, it was just,
there's no fans in the stands.
Yeah, no fans. Couldn't communicate with my team. Like I felt like there was some camaraderie issues that I was dealing with as far as just getting close with the players. Just with
what do you think
COVID.
that was? Just like COVID specifically, or
COVID,
like?
and it just didn't feel like, it felt like I was just there on a showcase type of level, not really like a how do you win type of level. You know what I mean? I was trying to like prove myself in a very short window of time, and yeah, it was just a very weird year. But again, that off season, I went back to that drawing board that we keep talking about, and I was like, okay, let me look at my at-bats, let me get in my game plan, let me figure out what happened that allowed me to get beat. Like, what are the at-bats, and then the slider away, like I gotta pull these guys closer to me. I can't be swinging too far on the outside corner. And you know, came back in 21 and played pretty well, had some moments. I actually got optioned, so I went back to AAA, and then halfway through the year I came back up and was feeling good. I think that was the year that we played together.
That's the year I was getting to that, yeah.
And yeah, had some moments, finished the year pretty decent, and started to feel more like baseball. You know, it started to feel more like baseball. And then after that, you know, continue the same process, pretend you didn't do shit, come back the next year, you know how it goes.
Yeah, new shit,
you know how it goes. But yeah, man, it was definitely another level. The big leagues in AAA, it's not the same game.
Yeah.
It's another level, and you know, I had to go and figure out, I had to pull the rest of what I got from inside myself to figure it out and to, you know, perform, because, you know, if you don't stay, they don't pay.
Exactly.
You know?
No, man, it's the AAA and minor and big leagues are like just one step away, but the step is a huge step.
Oh man, it is.
What is it like playing for Ron Washington?
Dude, I'm gonna tell you what, man. As advertised,
yeah.
Ron Washington is a beast. He's an absolute beast. And probably for me personally, the coolest thing about Ron is he doesn't give you that coach vibe where you feel like you're limited to a certain time to talk to him. You know what I mean? Because sometimes like you deal with those managers where you feel like there's a lot of time that's not appropriate to have conversation.
Right.
But Ron was always the guy that was sitting around with his fungo, because you know he doesn't go anywhere without that fungo.
No, dude.
And you come talk to him about anything.
Yeah.
And, you know, and he was that, you know, father figure and that kind of like, you know, for me, grandpa type figure where I could just go and chop it up with him, and it made me a better player through this year of just being able to talk through his experiences. You know, if I'm struggling with something, that he was just there to give it raw and uncut.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, is like the raw and uncut part about Ron, because he'll shoot it straight, but he tells you it like that because he loves you.
Right.
And that's how he is. And so, man, I'm really excited. I'm glad that when I saw it scroll across the screen, you know, fall of 23, I was really, really excited. And what a great time through this year it was.
Yeah, I mean, I played against his teams, like when he was with the Braves, when yeah, so like I got a good feel of him like from across the way, and even my dad, like when he was with the Rangers, my dad was like, man, he seems like a cool manager, man. Hopefully you get to play for him one day. And so like I saw that part, and I saw like how blunt he can be. I saw that he there's no filter. He's like, this is how I feel like I have to tell you, right? Like, and I feel like for the Angels, with how many young guys you guys got, like that, I feel like that's exactly what you guys need to like develop big league talent. And that's kind of what his like message was. He's like, we're gonna learn here. There may be some losing, but we're gonna be learning here as well, right? Is that kind of what you got from him?
100%. In the past, the thing that we've struggled with, and there's some other things as well, not just this, but the hard part is we expected players to know how to work. We expected them to know how to go out and create schedule and how to be a big leaguer. And the reality is, when half the roster is under 25 years old, that's a tough ask. And dealing with Ron this year, we were gonna work. Like, if we did anything, whether we won, whether we lost, like, our focus was going to be about our work. And especially defensively. Defensively as a team, we were fantastic. And, you know, I can speak on that in my own experience, but I'm telling you, focusing on the work and the day-to-day, like, grind, that's where his mind is. And so when we go out and play, we're just playing the game. You know, our focus was on our work. Now we just go out and do what we do. We don't think about what the result's going to be. And I think he was able to really help, especially some of the younger players and first-year guys, not worry so much about what is going to happen at 6:40. You know, it was like, hey, like, this is your work now. This is 2:30. This is 3 o'clock. This is our work now. Focus on what you want to do right now. When we do our short fungo, try not to miss a ball. Like, how are you going to compete in this short fungo drill to not miss a ball and to play every ball as clean as you can? And then in the game, when it shows up, you're ready. And it's not me sitting around trying to create my own schedule and trying to figure out how am I going to get ready for this game as a 21-year-old rookie. It's like, no, I've worked for 2 hours. I feel good. Like, I'm ready. Like, I've been on the field. I've walked the warning track, seen how the ball's going to fly and how the ball's going to play. Like, when we cover that, you can go into the game with a deep breath and be ready.
You just play. There's not so much thinking involved, because I think what happens, like, when guys are doing bad is, like, they're doing too much thinking, whether it be at the plate or on the mound or on defense, whatever it is. So like when you put in the work, all you gotta do is let your body, like, do what it knows how to do, and then, like, let your body flow. So we started to play together in 21, and we were both with the Salt Lake Bees in AAA. And I was coming back from my shoulder surgery, and my first impressions of you were, this is the most athletic, explosive dude that I've ever met. Like, when we did all of our, like, you know, the what is it called, vertical jump, and you were the only one that beat me. I had a 35 and you had like a 42. And I was like, oh, like, who got the highest? And they're like, Jo Adell. I'm like, what was he, like, at 37, 38? Like, nah, he got a 42 or something like that. I was like, damn. I mean, I thought mine, like, 35, especially for, like, a little Mexican dude, like, that's pretty good, you know? So, like, I thought I was popping. But this next part, I'm gonna ask you, on a scale from 1 to Ron Washington, how blunt can I be?
Right there in the 8th inning, if you're going to decide to get that bag, you got to get the bag. Hopefully that will never happen again. It was embarrassing to all of us.
I'll tell you this.
No, I'm talking about, like, just with this question. Like,
yes.
So I'm going to be around an 8 for Ron Washington. So, like, when I first met you, I'm like, this dude's explosive. But then when defensively, when I saw you, I was like, it's like you didn't know how to control how explosive you were or something. Like, you would run. And again, this is with all the love, because where you are now, I can say this, but, like, it was like you were wearing the glove on the wrong hand. And on your wrong hand, you were trying to catch the ball, and it was, like, weird. You go from that to now being nominated for a Gold Glove. Like, that's incredible that you've done that. And I want to applaud you, like, first on that, because the amount of work that you had to put in for that, and, like, where you've come defensively is, like, we've all known you had power and speed, but, like, it seems like you've been able to put together defensively. Like, what was that process like to, like, refine that? Because it truly is amazing with like how far you come from that in just 2 years.
1 and 10, and that is a 10 right there. You went straight. Hey, if that was you might as well sit in Ron's chair. That's where you went with that. But you're 100% right. So,
well, the reason I say that is because how good you are now. Now, if it wasn't there, I'd be like, hey, man, you made some improvements. Yeah, you did a good, but, like, the improvements that you made is amazing, bro. Like, that's what I'm saying. That was really dope. Yeah.
No, it was. So, like you said, like, glove on the wrong hand. That's actually a really good point. Like, my issue, and what we came to the realization with, I worked out with Bo Porter this year. He was our outfield coach for the Angels. And in spring training, we got into spring training, and he pulled up all my footage, and we just looked at it. Just similar to hitting stuff, like, hey, like, went and looked at defensive footage, trying to figure out, like, what was it? Like, what was I missing? Because it's like you said, my issue was never getting to the ball. I can get to any ball that's hit. My issue was I didn't know where I was. So when you're in the outfield, right, like, there's so many dudes that can fly but can't play outfield, and like my issue was I didn't know exactly where I was in space, so I'm running towards the ball and I don't know how close I am to the wall. I don't know where I am going behind me.
So you're just thinking about a whole bunch of shit. Like,
yeah, so I'm running towards the ball, I'm running towards the play, and I'm thinking about if things are there that aren't there, whether it's the fence, whether I'm close to the warning track, whatever that might be. And so in spring training, I got with Bo and we started doing drills that incorporated me figuring out where I am on the field. And we would get after it. And if you'd ask the guys on my team, like, they would come at me and they would say, hey man, like, don't get hurt out there, you know, because I was running like, I would run a full pace sprint towards the wall to make wall ball plays. That was my drill work. And it was all to make sure that I'm familiar with where I am. I'll give you a prime example. It's like, I could be playing left field in Fenway on Monday, right? Well, what's in left field in Fenway? It's the green monster. It's like, we need to go walk that. So we would go walk that, and we would say, hey, look, like, you know, you only have this amount of space to work with. So how do you want to set up with this amount of space? And so doing that pre-game, now I'm like, okay, I'm in the outfield. I know exactly where I am. There's not a spot in what I'm gonna play that I don't know where I'm at. And so that's what I did at every field we played at. That's what I did at home. And then ended up being that I would play shallow. So there were games this year where I played, you know, how they have the markers, right? Where you like mark out where you are. There's several games where I'd probably say over half the games where I played probably 4 or 5 steps in front of the marker shallow.
Because you're faster than the normal person.
I knew exactly where I was. There wasn't a play, there wasn't a spot on the field that I didn't know if I could get to it. I knew exactly where I was every single time. And so the tough play, the challenge play, which ended up being the plays that I make, it's because I know where I am. It's not because somebody else couldn't make the play. It's that I've practiced that. Like, I know exactly that, hey, I'm 3 or 4 steps from the wall and I can make this play. Or, hey, I know I'm about to run out of room and I get to that spot and then I can jump and make a play. But that was the game changer. I played outfield in the past without knowing what's behind me.
You would just go see ball, go get ball.
That's it. See ball, go get ball.
And then you're like, oh, you know, where am I at? Am I running to a wall? Am I
running to the fence, or be 3 feet from the fence? And that's the one that the relief guys hate late in the 7th inning. Hey, I don't make this play because I think I'm closer to the wall than I am. You see it happen all the time. But I eliminated it just by being able to focus on where I am on the field and know what my surroundings look like.
Awesome. Yeah, man. Like, so when I saw that Gold Glove award, I was like, and I was even telling my wife, I'm like, that is really, really dope, because even she remembers, like, it was shaky out there sometimes, you know what I mean? But from that to now, like, bro, like, that's so dope that you're able to do that, because some guys just accept the fact that I'm not a good defender, you know what I mean? I'm just I'm gonna go hit, you know, that's what they focus on. But you're rounding out your game. The other thing that I saw that you did is you made an adjustment at the plate. You took out your leg kick, right?
Correct.
So, like, what did that do for you, and how did that, like, help you? Because after, like, post leg kick, your numbers
were crazy great.
Were really good, you know? So, like, what is that like?
Yeah, so what I ended up doing, like, I had a leg kick all the way through my career. So I've had a leg kick from when I got drafted all the way up until, I guess, halfway into this year, or this past year. And so what I did was, in spring training, I actually tinkered with it. We were messing around with it.
So the other adjustment that you made, other than, like, all your work with defensively, is you took out your leg kick. And explain to me, like, how that alone can, like, make your performance that much better, because after your numbers, after you changed your leg kick or took it out, like, are way better and projected to be way better. So, like, how did that just leg kick alone account for that number shift?
Well, I think the first thing too is the track record of the leg kick. When I had it all the way through the minor leagues, and then all the way up until this point, halfway through this year. And the reason that the leg kick became a little bit of an issue was I was tardy on fastballs. I was behind on fastballs, and it worked so well in the minor leagues because I wasn't necessarily getting beat by fastballs there at that level. You know, there wasn't like the overly hoppy fastballs that were getting by me, or
there wasn't Mason Miller fastballs.
I wasn't seeing Mason Miller fastballs, right? And so I had to kind of find a way to say, okay, look, I know if I'm behind on fastballs in the big leagues, when in the big leagues you've got to throw your fastball. You know, we all know that. What am I going to be able to do to give myself the best chance to, if anything, be early, right? Like, because I was looking at my numbers, and my numbers on fastballs, I was hitting like under 200 against fastballs, and I was hitting 280 on breaking balls. Like anything that was a breaking ball, anything that was an off-speed pitch,
you were just more on time for it.
Through a portion of time, I was crushing it. And it's like, okay, because my timing is for off-speed pitches. You know, I was timing myself up to hit off-speed when you got to be ready for the fastball.
Right.
This is the big leagues. You know, when you face those top frontline starters, they're not going to be throwing sliders to you only. Right. And if they are, they're expecting chase with 2 strikes. And so we went to the drawing board, and with the abbreviated step, that's what I call it. It's kind of like an abbreviated step, early step. The goal was, hey, how on time can I be for the fastballs? How on time can I be for the velo? And in spring training, we whipped it out. It was like we were talking in spring training. I tried it, couldn't get the timing right on it, and so we went back to what I had originally. And I was like, I want to start the year with something that feels comfortable, and was a little bit behind still on fastballs throughout the season. Actually, the beginning of the year I was okay, and then I kind of started getting a little bit behind, and so we finally bit the bullet come All-Star break and said, hey, look, like this is something that with my power and how much power that I have, I just need to get to a spot. Get me to a spot. After that, everything else is going to be what it's going to be.
Right.
My decision making went up, my walk rate went up. Basically everything that we were talking about on number-wise went up because I was able to avoid me being late on fastballs. Me being late on a fastball wasn't the issue anymore. I was able to battle the late inning reliever. Like the late inning reliever's fastballs, and we know how those get. The late inning reliever, the 7th inning, you're 0 for 3, and then you got 99 coming right at you. I was able to battle that and able to stay in those at-bats a little bit longer than maybe I would have originally. So I'm happy about the way that it's gone.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, I saw that uptick. I saw, like, again, all that stuff, it just breeds more confidence. And the more confident you are, the more you can let the ball get a little bit deeper. And again, you have no shortage of power. You're like 96 percentile in power or whatever in the league. So like, you don't have to worry about that leg kick to generate power because you supply all the power.
Get to a spot. That's
just beat them there. So what is on tap for Jo Adell in 2025? Like, so you've made some adjustments, I assume. I mean, in this game, you never stop making adjustments. So like, for you, what is the next step to continue your evolution as a great big leaguer?
So I've thought about this, and as I've gone into the off season, you're kind of like preparing what are you gonna do during the off season? What's gonna be your goal? So I have 2 goals basically. My 2 goals are my defensive stuff. I want to keep the same. My defensive stuff worked, and obviously the metrics show it. Offensively, swing less. That's my goal for 2025.
Okay.
To swing less. And the reason why I say swing less is because I want to go into an at-bat and I want to give myself a couple of swings to be able to do what I want to do. I know during the course of an at-bat that me going up there and swinging a bunch is not going to lead to what I really want to be able to do. I've got to get in there with a plan to hunt my pitch and to swing less. And if I can do that, I become a different player at that point.
Right.
So that's my goal. My goal is to swing less. Okay. You know, as simple as we can put it, and make those decisions. Now, on base percentage is up. Now, all sorts of things. Now I put myself in scoring position more often because hits are hits. You know what I mean? And so, but that's my goal: swing less.
And now, last question. Last question. Out of your experience so far, everything that you've had and you've gone through, what is the most important lesson that you've learned so far? Like, what is something that you feel that is like a summary and something that you would tell your younger self or kids that are younger on how to achieve success like you have and battle adversity?
I think one thing that I wish I would have known when I was younger, or I guess early in my pro career, I would have been able to realize you're always one small change away. And I think that holds true to me. Defensively, we talked about it. Like, I struggled defensively, but I was one fix away from getting everything back on track. And I think that's like something that's huge, because a lot of times you think you're so far away from doing whatever it is you're trying to do or get to whatever level that you're trying to get to, when in reality, you could be just one small fix away. You could be one change, one adjustment, and that's what kind of wakes me up in the morning and gets me fired up. Is I understand that. I understand that from my own experience and my own success with it. But also, it goes with anything you do.
Right.
It's just like this. Me and you getting in that plunge right there. That's just, hey, that could be the one thing that gives me 10 more games of the season. You know, prepares me 10 more games. So that would be the one thing. Is
I like that.
You're not that far away.
I like that. It simplifies things, because I think a lot of people try to do too much. You know, when people get in ruts or in struggles or in slumps even, they try to hit more balls, or they try to do all these different things. And sometimes that is the answer, and other times it's really not. It's more mental. And so, like, when you simplify it, and you say making small changes, then it lightens the load mentally and allows your body to perform like the way it's supposed to, the way it knows how to. So I like that. I think a lot of people can learn from that. But man, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to do this. This is amazing. I feel like a lot of people will learn from this, and I appreciate you, Dougie.
You got it, AJ.
All right, that's it.
Right on.
See you.